$5,000 in Burlington, 5,000 in Denver, 3,000 in Minneapolis, and in Madison, Wisconsin, almost 10,000 people.
Tonight, we have made a little bit of history. We have more people at a meeting for a candidate for President of the United States than any other candidate has had.
I've been very frustrated for the last several years, and Bernie's got that, he's like the lone wolf out there, you know, speaking for people who don't have a voice.
The first thing I said to Jerry and Becky when I got here, did we break the record? They said, yes, you did, by quite a bit.
Thank you. Oh, thank you all.
Couple policy questions. The debt ceiling, as it relates to what you do as a U.S. Senator, what kind of concession can you get from this president on the debt ceiling?
Well, you know, it's interesting. So what Washington leadership says, Republican leadership says, is at every stage is we can get nothing. There's a basic dynamic happening in Washington where one side, Obama and the Democrats, they approach everything passionately committed to their principles. They'll crawl over broken glass with a knife between their teeth to advance their failed big government principles. And unfortunately, Republican leadership approaches every battle preemptively surrendering, saying we can do nothing. And so when it comes to the debt ceiling, the position of Republican leadership is already that they want to give trillions in borrowing authority to Barack Obama in exchange for nothing, that they want to completely surrender. In fact, John Boehner is talking about cutting a deal with Nancy Pelosi and teaming up with the Democrats to fund 100% of Obama's big government agenda. Now, David, that makes no sense. If you look historically, the last 55 times Congress has raised the debt ceiling, it has attached meaningful concessions 28 times. It is proven to be the most effective leverage, but it's not leverage if you surrender at the outset.
What do you see as the difference between what you would do about the banks and what Secretary Clinton would do?
The first difference is I don't take money from big banks. I don't get personal speaking fees from Goldman Sachs. What I would do is understand that when you have 3 out of the 4 largest banks today bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail, when you have the 6 largest financial institutions having assets of 60% of the GDP of America, it is very clear to me what you have to do. You got to bring back a 21st century Glass-Steagall legislation, and you got to break up these huge financial institutions. They have too much economic power, and they have too much financial power over our entire economy.
18 trillion. And now it's 19 trillion. It just goes up. It's only going up. And when Obamacare kicks in, which is really in 16, Obama's going to be playing golf on some of my golf courses, I think. Okay? He won't care. When Obamacare kicks in, do you see what's happening to your premiums? They're going up 40, 50%. Do you see what's going on? When Obamacare kicks in, it's going to be unbelievable for our country. Unbelievably bad. So expensive. So we're going to repeal Obamacare, replace it with something much more.
Secretary Clinton, Senator Sanders favors what he calls Medicare for all. Now, you've said that what he is proposing would tear up Obamacare and replace it. Secretary Clinton, is it really fair to say that Bernie Sanders wants to kill Obamacare?
Well, Andrea, I am absolutely committed to universal health care. I've worked on this for a long time. People may remember that I took on the health insurance industry back in the 90s, and I didn't quit until we got the Children's Health Insurance Program that insures 8 million kids. And I certainly respect Senator Sanders' intentions. But when you're talking about health care, the details really matter. And therefore, we have been raising questions about the 9 bills that he introduced over 20 years as to how they would work and what would be the impact on people's health care. He didn't like that. His campaign didn't like it either. And tonight he's come out with a new health care plan. And again, we need to get into the details. But here's what I believe. The Democratic Party in the United States worked since Harry Truman to get the Affordable Care Act passed. we finally have a path to universal health care. We've accomplished so much already. I do not want to see the Republicans repeal it, and I don't want to see us start over again with a contentious debate. I want us to defend.
Secretary Clinton didn't answer your question. Because what her campaign was saying, Bernie Sanders, who has fought for universal health care for my entire life, he wants to end Medicare, end Medicaid, end the Children's Health Insurance Program. That is nonsense. What a Medicare for All program does is finally provide in this country health care for everybody.
Well, there's no doubt we need common sense health care reform, and it's something you're seeing a lot of Republicans talking about ideas. I think health care reform ought to expand competition, it ought to empower patients, and it ought to disempower government bureaucrats from getting in between us and our doctors. I think the best way to do that, 3 concrete ideas, are number 1, allowing people to purchase health insurance across state lines so that you can have true national marketplace and low-cost catastrophic health insurance. Number 2, as Dr. Ben Carson talked about very effectively, expanding health savings accounts so that you can save for more routine health needs. And number 3, working to make health insurance portable, delinking it from employment so that if you lose your job, your health insurance stays with you. Every one of those empowers the patients. You know, Obamacare has been a manifest disaster. The state of New Hampshire, insurance companies have put in this year for premium increases of 51%, in Iowa 30%, in South Carolina 33%. Millions of Americans have lost their jobs, have lost their health care, have been forced into part-time work. And I'll tell you, I've been proud to lead the fight to stop Obamacare in the United States Senate against the Washington cartel. And there are a lot of politicians in Washington that have largely given up. They don't believe Obamacare can ever be repealed, including, sadly, a fair number of Republicans. I don't believe that. I intend to make 2016 a referendum on repealing Obamacare. And if I'm elected president, we will repeal every word of Obamacare, and we'll pass common sense health insurance reform to make health insurance personal and portable and affordable.